Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by Play Picks and the Lines, coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined as always by my guy on the East Coast, Nate Weitzer. Another great article on playpicks.com for you guys. Make sure you check out all of Nate's best bets and some of his DFS strategy. As always, if you do need a FanDuel or a DraftKings account, head to ftpicks.com or dkpicks.com. Find all those local listings in your area, and please jump into those comments, like and subscribe to the page. Let us know who you guys are betting on and have some fun with us. Let's jump into tonight's lines for tonight, Nate, for 20.
Yes, sir. Nice 5-game slate. Some interesting angles to choose from. Probably staying away from this first one. Magic plus 12 at Hawks. But then the other 4 games are intriguing. Hornets plus 5.5 at Knicks. We got the Nets plus 3 at Pelicans. Brooklyn will be without Harden, Durant, and Nicholas Claxton. The Clippers are minus 7 at the Blazers, who will be without Dame Lillard and Yusuf Nurkic. And then the Wolves are plus 3.5 at the Kings. So, Josh, of the 4 games we're looking at, which is your favorite?
I'm looking at the Clippers right away, right? I mean, you've got Dame out. You've got Kawhi and Paul George most likely both playing. Neither of them are on the injury list tonight. When they play together, they're plus 17 points per 100 possessions, and they shoot about 60% effective field goal percentage from the field. So that team with those 2 players is one of the, in my opinion, a top 3 team in the league, and that's a legit title contender. Against Portland, they've won 5 straight. Part of that is the matchup. The Clippers allow the 4th fewest 3-point attempts a game, the 5th fewest 3-pointers made by their opponent. They allow the 4th fewest assists per game, the fewest, they give up the fewest defensive rebounds per game. So overall, I like their matchup without Nurkic, without Dame. There's really nothing not to like. You look at what the Blazers do without Dame. Since 2017, they barely score 107 points a game. They're 15-15 in that time span. When you look at Lillard's usage percent rate this season, it's at 34, almost 35%, with him having the ball in his hands. Cantor does come to play when Nurkic sits. He averages about 13-13, but it all feels pretty hollow. All the lineups for Portland without Dame this season are minus 3.5 points per 100 possessions. Their field goal percentage, not surprisingly, drops by almost about 2%, their effective field goal percentage. And really as home underdogs as well, they haven't been good this season, 3-5 against the spread, and they fail to cover those games by an average of about, 9 points a game. I'm looking at LA to definitely pull that out. 7 points is a bit much here and there, at this point in the season, but it's depending on, how much we think the Clippers are really bringing it against a Dameless Portland team. But I still am going to take a little bit of minus 7 and then probably tease them with a game I'll talk about here in a sec.
Yeah, that's a good call on the tease because I'm just looking at the schedule. The Clippers are on the front end of a back-to-back. They face red-hot Memphis tomorrow night. So there is a chance we just see Kawhi sit or something. He did only play 22 minutes in his return from that foot issue. But regardless, the Clips are filling it up without him, and they are just crushing bad teams. Not saying Portland's a bad team, but you just rattled it off. They are a 500 team without Damian Lillard. And without Yusuf Nurkic, their defensive rating this year is 120. That would be worst in the league. So, yes, I definitely trust the Clippers to score. I trust them to keep winning. They've won 8 straight when favored. I think they'll make it 9 straight. And if you tease it down to 3 points, then you got to feel real comfortable about them, even if Kawhi isn't playing or Paul George. You never know.
Yeah.
Speaking of stars not playing, so the Nets are at the Pelicans. I was spinning my wheels on this one for a while, trying to extrapolate. How do we read the last meeting into this one? How do the Nets perform without these guys? How are the Pelicans back on track? Their offense has been terrible lately. And I'm just thinking, why overcomplicate it? Kyrie Irving is going to score 30 points tonight. He is going to score 30 points. His prop is at 29.5. It's minus 112 on FanDuel. If you're feeling froggy, you can get 35 plus points. You can get plus 215 odds at FanDuel for Kyrie. I don't see why you would mess with anything else, really. I do like the overs in general in this game. I think because the Pelicans, even though they've lost 7 of their last 11, 7 of the 11 have gone over. Lonzo Ball has been out for, I think, 11 of their last 15, which explains a lot of their offensive rating dip. He's back for two. Their last two, they go to overtime actually against some really slow-paced, defensive-minded teams. I give the Wizards credit for being defensive-minded right now. But yeah, they gave up 139 to the Nets the last time out. I think that was really circumstantial considering how tired they were at that point. It was their fifth game in 7 nights. But the Nets are a great three-point shooting team, shooting 39% and still getting 118 points per game when Harden sits. And the Pelicans are still giving up the second most triples per game. So I'm looking at Kyrie leading them, getting them over their team total as well. 113.5 you can get it at DraftKings. I'm also looking at some Joe Harris props, maybe even. You can get him to hit 4 threes in a win at plus 460. Joe Harris and Landry Shamet, I think, are both going to have a nice night against this Pelicans defense. And I think with Nicholas Claxton, I don't know if I mentioned that off top, the Nets are obviously always pretty bad on the interior defense, but I think Zion is going to bounce back from a poor game their last time out against him. And help this game get over the overall total, which is rising right now. So I'm probably sticking with the Nets total.
Yeah, the 233.5 and rising. It's a lot of points, but we would have felt a lot more comfortable about this game if we hadn't seen the Pels' recent woes, to be honest, on both sides of the ball, really. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, I'm looking at Kyrie Irving. Points. When he's the only guy on the floor, he really takes it upon himself to score. Really liking that game tonight. I think it's going to be a fun game either way. So I'm definitely going to be tuning in and betting on Kyrie in that one. And then a game that I'm going to talk about now through the lens of the Knicks appreciation segment, as we'll call it. The New York Knicks taking on the Charlotte Hornets tonight. A really depleted Charlotte Hornets, still no LaMelo Ball, despite the fact that he did mention he's coming back next week from wrist surgery. So to be young again and be able to heal from a wrist injury in like 2 weeks is unbelievable. But still no Ball tonight, still no Gordon Hayward tonight. Really, that means Terry Rozier is the only player in this lineup that even averages 15 points a game. He's at about almost 21, and he's really going to need to step it up if they're going to be able to hang with the Knicks tonight. I don't expect them to. In the first meeting this season, the Knicks got handled. Gordon Hayward went off for about 34 points. Julius Randle did absolutely nothing, 11 points, which was his second lowest total of the season. He shot just 2 of 9 from the field. The Knicks shot overall, they were putrid from the field, shooting about 24% from 3 and 34% from the field overall. Really bad game for them. And I expect a big turnaround game there. You see Julius Randle, things are opening up for him as Nerlens Noel and Taj Gibson have been able to fill the role of Mitchell Robinson being out. You see Randle scoring a few more points over his last 8. He's got 31, 9 boards is down a bit. As we mentioned, he doesn't have to get down low and bang as much, but he's also got 7 assists up for his total in the season. So, he's definitely bringing it on offense right now. And Charlotte has nothing really to compete with them, as we mentioned, without anything really to bring on offense. And just, to be honest, this game, Nate, started as this very trappy feeling game for me where it's like, the Knicks, they've won 6 in a row. They're the hot team. Everyone's talking about them now. This seems like a letdown game against a team that, you might not be willing to bring it as much since they don't have their stars in. But really, the Knicks are 10-2 against the spread this season after a win, or excuse me, as home favorites. And after a win, they're 19-10 against the spread. So they do continue to bring it even after they win, and especially at home when they're favored. There are no letdowns for them. 6 points, still not that much to me. I'm fine with it, but I do love the ability to tease the Clippers down to about 3 points, tease the Knicks down to about 1.5 points, and still get even money there, as well as another prop I'm looking at in that game for the Knicks. Julius Randle double and a Knicks money line win. You're looking at plus 132 on your money. I feel good about both those things, but definitely finding a lot of value in the Knickerbockers right now.
Yeah, I just want to go on a little tangent about the futures market here. DraftKings does not even have Julius Randle as an option for MVP. We can get Bradley Beal plus 50,000 as a real long shot to win MVP. Why isn't Randle on there? I mean, he's the favorite to win Most Improved Player by a long margin, but the guy is putting up absurd numbers over the last 8 games. He's been as good as anyone in the league. All around, maybe not as good as Steph, and Tom Thibodeau plus 2,000 to win Coach of the Year. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Quinn Snyder and Monty Williams are the favorites there.
Monty
Sure,
Williams.
they've
Yeah.
navigated a tougher conference. Their teams have better records. But
Yep.
I think the eye test, if you're saying like you don't need to be the top team in the league, you just need to do the best job in terms of
Yeah.
improving a team. Tom Thibodeau should be coach of the year, right?
I agree. I will just say that, like, if the comparison on the West Coast, you got Thibodeau versus, say, Monty Williams. Monty Williams, if he's the number one seed with the Suns, you got to look at him there. And then if you got even MVP, Steph Curry probably jumps ahead of him there too because of what he's doing, similarly carrying his team on the West side of the Western Conference. It's just not looking good for the Knicks.
I'm not saying he should get MVP votes. I'm just saying they should humor him by putting him on the list.
They should have
and Chris Paul is the coach of the Suns. So, Monty, you don't deserve that. Looking at the last game that I'm interested in, the Wolves and Kings, at first glance, holy crap, these teams are terrible on defense. But for some reason, when they meet each other, it doesn't always result in fireworks. We saw the last time out, the Wolves won 116-106, and actually 4 of the last 5 meetings have gone under. Something I'm looking at for Minnesota is the health of Karl Anthony Towns. He's missed 2 games and then played limited minutes in his last 2. And Minnesota's only scoring 106.5 points per game in those 4 games. They've also somehow been protecting the paint without Towns healthy, allowing the fewest points per game in the paint last week. And that's what the Kings are absolutely depending on. They're third in points in paint, and they're shooting just 33% from deep over their last 10 games, 1-9 during that span. And so the Wolves, who are the worst 3-point defense in the league, that partially explains why they've matched up decently well against the Kings. Kings still playing at a fast pace, but for some reason, since the All-Star break, they've only gone over in 6 out of 21 games. I think odds makers are still trying to adjust, get their totals down a little bit. They're definitely not hitting over 240 too often, which is what we're at basically right now. And their last 4 overs, in fact, all 6 of those overs have been against teams in playoff position, not teams like the Wolves. The Kings have not brought it against losing teams. They're 1-9 against the spread at home in their last 10 against losing teams. So I'm looking at the under here at 239. Maybe it'll continue to go up because of the reputation, because of the raw numbers indicating that these are the worst defensive teams out there. But 240 is just insane. And I don't think the Kings are going to get to their total of 121.5 either. Just looking at unders there.
Yeah, I feel it. And you look at the Kings at home, especially. You mentioned since the All-Star break, they're averaging 112 points per game at home since then. So 121. Yeah, you think that the T-Wolves are horrible at defense, but potentially, a sort of lowering the tide for each of these ships means that they're both going to be really, really bad tonight. I probably won't be watching that game, but any other games that you will be looking at, Nate, to eye some DFS plays?
Yeah, well, it's going to be fun to play Julius Randle tonight, and I think your bring back on the other side should be Terry Rozier, who does like the bright lights of MSG, and he's going to have a huge usage rate tonight. If you can't afford Kyrie, I think you still get some good Nets exposure with Joe Harris, Landry Shamet, Bruce Brown. I like Najee Marshall on the other side of the ball. I think the Pelicans are going to have to go small a little bit. James Johnson might not play. Reggie Jackson has become a really good cash play at his price. And I'm looking at Paul George. I'm not convinced Kawhi is going to go hard on the front end of a back-to-back. And for some more value, of course, the Orlando Magic. Chuma Okeke is now healthy again. He's putting up some good numbers. Cole Anthony, going to get all the run he can handle. No MCW, no Terrence Ross tonight. So those are the values that I'm considering.
Yeah, and then I would just say, if you find CJ McCollum tonight, or potentially Norman Powell, somebody to fill up the offense for Portland, if you do think there'll be some points scored in that game. So that is all the time that we have for today, Nate. I do enjoy these small slates, a lot of fun stuff to look at tonight, a lot of different props available. Make sure you do like and subscribe to that page for us. Jump in the comments. Let us know who you guys are betting on tonight. Having some fun chopping it up with you guys in there. We'll be back with another show for tomorrow. And as for tonight, happy betting.